All right, Eddie Hearn is here, chairman of Matchroom Boxing. Busy week for Eddie. He is on the two-city press tour for the Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr. show scheduled for April 26th. We're recording this before the first stop on the press tour, so I don't know yet, Eddie, if there are going to be, if there have been any fireworks at this point, but I'm sure you're anticipating some less than friendly interactions between these two guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first time around, it was kind of there was a mutual respect. We are our father's sons, and we're carrying on this legacy. And we never really got the third fight, so it's amazing that we're bringing this fight to the fans. Fast forward 2 years, it's very different. There is hatred, there is controversy, there is history, there is a lot of bad blood, and there's been a lot said. And yeah, I expect the build up to be juicy. And that's what we want to see. Listen, this is, I think, just doing a little bit of media there, this isn't really Conor Benn against Chris Eubank Jr. This is Ben Eubank 3,
Hmm.
as far as I'm concerned. Because if you know the history, Eubank won the first fight. The second fight was a controversial draw. And Nigel Benn never really got the opportunity for revenge.
Hmm.
And Nigel's in camp with Conor. He's walking around here with an unbelievable intensity. And it's personal.
Hmm.
It's personal for Nigel. It's personal for Conor. And, Eubank's a tough kid. He's not going to back down. He'll hold his feet. And, for the hardcore fight fans out there, and if you haven't seen the fight, go and watch Nigel Benn against Iron Barkley.
Hmm.
And that's exactly how this fight's going to play out.
So I want to go back to last Saturday in Riyadh with Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. In the moments after the fight, you're standing behind Dmitry Bivol, and the cameras catch you with your eyes closed, and it looks like you're talking to yourself there, Eddie. What were you saying in that moment?
Please, please don't rob us again. Please don't rob us again. That's exactly what I was saying. Because, listen, my reaction around the first fight. I do think the first fight was closer than the second fight. But I just, you know, when from round 4, 5, 6, I just felt like this fight was slipping away from us. And, I was looking at the intensity of Artur Beterbiev, the work rate, the power, and just thinking, I don't know how we're going to turn this around. I kept saying to you that fighting Beterbiev is like a time bomb,
Mm.
right? You have to keep the tick slow before the boom. And last time the boom came in round 10. And Dmitry, for 9 rounds, outboxed Artur Beterbiev. And now all of a sudden, we've outboxed him for 3 rounds. And now it's like round 10 of the first fight.
Mm.
But we have to be in trouble here. I could not believe what he did from whether it was 7 or 8, where he basically won like 5 rounds on the spin. Boxing, probably the best boxing performance I've ever seen live. And even like when we went into the 12th, which I think probably Beterbiev edged, it was a very close round. I
Mhm.
was like, I feel like we're like 4 rounds up going into the 12th. And then obviously we get through the 12th round. And when I got in the ring for the first fight, everyone had thought we'd won in the corner. But this time, we didn't even ask if we thought we'd won. They were just like, well, we definitely won this time. But I've like, as someone that's just seen a million decisions, and like, I was just thinking, and when they said the draw, I was like, no, please, no, and yeah, I was just like, please, please. That's all I was saying, is please, please don't rob us, please, please, please. And yeah, it was unbelievable elation. It was a mixture of them, probably like 80% of it was for Dmitry and knowing how much he wanted to win and what a great competitor he is and how hard he'd worked to become undisputed.
Mm.
The other 20 was probably a little bit personal. It was like not really personal against Beterbiev, but just Matchroom and like the run and, the big fights that have slipped away and the decisions that haven't quite gone in your favor. And just that elation of winning a close decision in a fight of that magnitude. And also the crowning of my first undisputed male champion. I've never had one before,
Yeah, you
and
look you were looking down at me sitting ringside, and I was pointing to your guys saying, "Oh
Yeah.
no, 2-round win." You didn't believe it. Like you
Yeah.
were just unwilling to.
Yeah. Well, you never know with your scorecards, Chris. So
Oh, okay, okay. Well, let's just we'll put a pin in that one. Dmitry said he needs a long rest after 2 fights, exhausting fights in 4 months. But are you anticipating a rubber match between these two guys happening this year?
yeah, I think really we're in the hands of His Excellency. You know, he's given us those two incredible opportunities, particularly the rematch. I mean, it's very unusual for a rematch in a fight so close to happen so quickly. And, you know, we thank him for that. So the cut was horrendous, to be honest with you. Like, I mean, what was that in the last minute of the fight or something like
Yeah.
that? It opened up, and you know, he had a good camp, but he had a lot of niggles in that camp, and he wants to get them cleared up. I don't think he's going to fight till September, October. You know, so may only fight once more this year. I don't anticipate him fighting earlier than that. And really, you know, the options are the mandatories are starting to rack up. You know, but of course the rubber match is probably the big favourite right now. The Canelo Alvarez rematch at some point, but obviously he's fighting Crawford reportedly in September. David Benavidez, unbelievable fight. Callum Smith, mandatory now with the WBO. You know, he even talked about maybe moving to cruiserweight and trying to become a 2 division world champion. He's not a big 175, but you know, he really had a. You got to remember, and you'll know this, Chris. Like we've represented Dmitry Bivol for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
When he first won the WBA world title, no one wanted to fight him. No one knew who he was, and no one knew and wanted to fight him. We struggled so long to get the big fights, and actually, it was really down to Canelo Alvarez's kind of
Machismo.
yeah, really kind of lack of fear that he gave Dmitry Bivol the opportunity, and that was like the breakout. I mean, don't forget, Dmitry Bivol has beaten the pound for pound number one, Canelo Alvarez. He's also beaten the unified cruiserweight world champion, Gilberto Ramirez. And let's be honest, did that with consummate ease. And now he's beaten the undisputed light heavyweight world champion. Like there is an argument, in my opinion, when you talk about this pound for pound list, I've got my own opinions of where he should sit, but it's very, very high up when you actually look at those three notable wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he should be a minimum top 4. And you could certainly make an argument based on the resume that he could be even higher. I want to ask you about a couple other guys from that card. Yeah, Callum Smith coming up with the big win on the opener. And you mentioned David Benavidez, who has, been biding his time, waiting for first Canelo Alvarez, now the winner of Beterbiev against Bivol. If Beterbiev and Bivol go for a third time, how willing are you to make a Callum Smith versus David Benavidez fight?
Definitely. I mean, there was talk from His Excellency about a potential Smith Yard fight, which is a big fight for British boxing. Callum's not really like, even like the Boazzi fight. He didn't like the Boazzi fight because it was a big British fight. He did it because the interim world title was on the line and a mandatory position. So he really wants a shot at the world title. That's what he wants more than anything. But I think the Benavidez fight would motivate him because Benavidez is a hugely respected 175, and that's a great fight. I mean, Callum's a big 175 pounder. You saw that against Boazzi on Saturday. Benavidez is coming up from 168, but has proved himself at 75. Wins against Morrell, who is really a 68 as well, but moved to 75. So I like the fight, and again, like when you get the opportunity through Riyadh season, it really is kind of winner stays on. So we'll talk to His Excellency, see what plans he has for Callum Smith. And then if there are no immediate plans, we'll look, on our own shows. And, Callum Smith is one of the biggest names in British boxing off the back of that win. It was a tremendous fight. Tremendous fight.
Shakur Stevenson, you posted a picture of him at the Matchroom offices earlier today. One of the big takeaway, the big question coming out of that fight with Josh Padley is the state of that left hand of Shakur's. What do you know about where he is physically and when he'll be ready to go again?
So the hands were good today. I mean, the inflammation was down. I mean, he's coming off hand surgery. The hands are a concern only in the amount of times that he fights per year. Do you know what I mean? Like he does need to rest his hands after fights. There was no injuries to the hands, only swelling, so it's not a problem. He came back probably a little bit too quick from the hand surgery that forced him out of the Cordina fight. Um, and I don't think you'll see him back in the ring till the back end of summer.
Hmm.
And we still want what was promised to us in the roadmap, which is Zepeda. You know, I said that the plan for Shakur was Floyd Schofield. Obviously, he didn't make it in the ring. Beat Padley, Zepeda, and Tank.
Hmm.
If we go straight into Tank, that's not a problem either. But we would like the Zepeda fight. I think that Shakur's getting better and better. I see people always try and they're queuing up to criticize Shakur. It's a funny setup, and it's like for the same way that Josh Padley only had 3 days notice for Shakur, Shakur had 3 days notice for Josh Padley. It wasn't really an ideal situation to be in, if I'm honest. And Padley can fight. We saw that, and he's a tough kid, but it's very difficult when you've been gearing up for a kind of bad blood fight with Floyd Schofield. All of a sudden, he's out. What's going on? This guy flies in. You've never really seen him before. You're watching a bit of footage, and it's like, I thought it was a good performance. And for me, as I said today, 27 years of age, 3 division world champion. He's never broken sweat. That's the reality. And he feels he's the best fighter in the world, and he wants to try and prove it.
You were around Golden Boy, Eric Gomez, all those guys all week long. Zepeda's going March 29th, that rematch against Tevin Farmer. What were they telling you, if anything, about their willingness to do that fight next?
Well, that was always the plan. That was always the plan with Golden Boy, and that was always the plan with me and Matchroom and Shakur. So obviously, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I just feel like Zepeda's a good fighter, and if he gets through the Farmer rematch, why not do the fight? Like, I mean, you'd only do the fight if you really didn't think you could win. And I get that, but there's a lot of money at stake, and he's the mandatory for the world title. So, hopefully that fight will get made.
A couple of things before I let you go. Virgil Ortiz gets the biggest win of his career against your guy, Israel Madrimov. A clean win. I know Madrimov was, saying he was still battling that bronchitis, and I get that, but Virgil came out and got the job done and picked up, I thought, the best win of his career. And look, it's tough for you to have Madrimov lose, but at the same time, Virgil winning just made a potential Boots fight significantly bigger, I think, towards the end of the year. Are you anticipating, if Boots beats Stanionis in April, that the priority will be putting together a fight with Virgil Ortiz?
I mean, to be honest, I think if Boots gets past Stanionis on April 12th, which is a serious fight, he's got a couple of options. His Excellency wants to make Teofimo Lopez against Jaron Ennis in October. He's made that very clear. Everything that I hear from Boots is about belts, and is about legacy, and is about unifying and becoming undisputed. I mean, if Boots beats Stanionis, feels good at the weight, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he said to me, I want the other belts. I want Norman. I want Barrios. Make those fights. But we know that the Teofimo fight is a big money fight. He also has no problem moving to 54. You heard his reaction after the last fight, which is maybe it's time to move to 54. We got the chance to unify. We're staying at 47 for now. So a lot depends on this camp, the weight cut, the performance. But he's in a great position. He could win and try and win the other belts. He could win and fight Teofimo. He could win and move up and fight Ortiz. So he's in a wonderful position.
All right, last thing for you. In 2 weeks' time, you're going to be in Orlando for the DAZN card headlined by Amel Williams. Edgar Berlanga is on that undercard, and there's been a lot of talk about what's going on with Edgar Berlanga right now. Maybe he's the co-main, maybe he's beneath Omari Jones. I don't know exactly where he's going to be slotted in, but it sure looks from the outside, Eddie, that the relationship with Berlanga seems to be not great right now. Like, where do you stand with Edgar Berlanga in terms of his future with Matchroom, and why kind of it isn't in a place that you probably wish it was?
I mean, look, we had, through the Canelo fight, going into that fight, they wanted a comeback provision within that contract for a defeat. Very standard, as you know. And what we agreed is that the comeback fight would be a relatively straightforward fight on an undercard, and the purse would be X. The reason that I think some people are more confused with the situation is because we were planning to have a bigger fight on a headline card in Puerto Rico. but negotiations kind of broke down a little bit between DAZN and myself and Keith Connolly, and we kind of run out of time. So we got to a stage where we were like 5 weeks out, and I don't think anyone was really comfortable with how that fight would have delivered in Puerto Rico. So we just reverted back to the contract.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say we've all fallen out. I wouldn't say it was a perfect process either, if I'm honest. But really, what we're doing is we're delivering what was in the contract, and they're not disputing that either. We got to a stage where it was like, let's just do the undercard fight that was contracted, and they sort of said, yeah, okay, let's just get on with it. It's not an ideal position, I think, but it's a position that is sticking to everybody's word off the back of the Canelo Alvarez fight. We're still talking, to Keith, and we'd still like the opportunity to deliver a big fight for Edgar in the summer. So it was a little bit heated. I think we'll all hug and kiss and make up in Orlando, and I think he'll look good in that fight. And it's actually quite a fun fight. It's a Puerto Rican opponent who'll come to fight, but we expect Edgar to look very good. And of course, he wants a quick win and get out in a big fight in the summer.
You, Frank, and Keith Conley at Disney World. I can see it now in the lines. Eddie, always appreciate it. Stay out of the line of fire this week between Chris and Connor, and we'll catch up again soon.
Cheers, mate.